Welcome to a new episode of Each Bring a Poem. I'm your host, Yael Valencia Aldana. On this podcast, mostly with a guest, we each bring a poem and discuss all things poetry. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe, and please leave us a review. And now, on to the conversation.
Woohoo! I am here with another episode of Each Bring a Poem with Nona Lee, who, full disclosure, is Purple Ink Press new marketing manager, and I am managing editor of Purple Ink Press. This is the first time we're bringing Each Bring a Poem under Purple Ink Press, so yay and welcome.
Hi, I brought here today a poem from a book called My Fears Out Loud by Maureen P. Medina. The poem I
Please hold on one second. I have to introduce you. She's so fast. I love that about her. Fast. Betty fast. Because I'm also Betty fast. I go, and then people are like looking at me like, what are you doing? Just calm down. Okay. I am going to read her bio, which is on Purple Ink Press website. Nona Lee is our new marketing manager. Doesn't say that. I improvise. She has poetry and art published in 13 volumes, previously an alumni of LSU, graduating with a BA in creative writing, as well as a few associate degrees in studio and fine arts. Okay, obviously I've not read this closely. I missed the few associate degrees. You're just throwing that around. A few. You don't want to boast. A few.
It literally is just a few by definition.
A few is plenty. Her pronouns are she, they. And I will be playing with that because I like that. They are now a student at the Stone Coast MFA program. Lee is also the host of Tresos. How do I say that?
It's not so. Since you mispronounced it, and I kind of messed up my head with the pronunciation, but it's Tesora.
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 And I've heard that before. Okay.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I'm dyslexic. And when I come across a word, I don't know how to. Oh, yay. Hey, that's why.
Yes.
That's why we're so similar. Oh my gosh, because we'll like the message will be flying between us like this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I'm like, this is so weird because usually when I'm messaging someone, I'm like, okay, I have to stop and calm down because all of these messages, they're is gonna freak them out. So I stop, but you keep going, so then I keep going, which is great. Beautiful. See, I learned something. Okay. They are now a student at the Stone Coast MFA program.
Thank you.
Oh, I read that already. Oh, I messed up the pronunciation, so now you have to say it again. You are the host of
Tesoro. Woman Heart.
And a workshop facilitator at Speak the Word, as well as social media curator for Mulberry Literature and an editor for Vial of Bones. Obviously, you don't sleep. In the past, Lee was the editor-in-chief of the Delta Undergraduate Literary Journal. They're thrilled to be the marketing manager for Purple Ink Press. You can find Lee's work and interviews on their link tree, which I will post. Yeah. So I am going to chitty chat with you for a minute because, first of all, the voice on this one, it's an ASMR fantasy. Like, for real. I said I was going to try. See, I'm like too excited. I'm going too fast. So now I'm going to bring it down. So I remember now that ASMR fantasy. I'm going to bring it
Yes.
down. Yes. Okay. When I heard them speak, I freaked out. Um, in the olden days, when life was hazy and sepia, before Gen Z, before Gen Y, there was a Gen X, of which I'm a part. And there was something called a radio. And we would listen to the radio. And sometimes there are really good voices on the radio. So you have that kind of voice. And also, you guys have got to go to purpleinkpress.com and click on About Us and look at their picture. I am going to fully disclose right now, and I know I'm embarrassing you, but it's too bad, so sad. I am obsessed with their picture because I saw it and immediately this scenario popped into my head where they are the scientists on an orbiting space station or space expedition, always bring in the spores, right? Always don't follow protocols. The spores are always growing too fast, too quickly. And the scientists, who's Nona Lee? They are the scientists. And they're concerned about the spores. And everybody does not listen to the scientists. This is what this picture is saying. You have
I
to go.
am very concerned about the spores, though.
Okay, in the movie, there's Jake Gyllenhaal, and also I want the sister, and I want Angela Bassett too. Okay, all of that, and also your neck is very long. Like there's a whole thing. Like how tall are you?
I'm not that tall. I'm just 5'5". It's just
But
proportions and the angle of it.
yeah, the neck though. It's like so. I'm obsessed with you. Like if we were friends in college. Now, I'm obsessed with one of my mentors, but like she's my sister. And I got into a whole sticky situation in my own mind because I wrote a poem about her and then I skewed it romantic to acknowledge myself as a bisexual woman. But then I had to reveal it was about her. So now it's looking like I had a crush on her. It was like a whole thing.
That is awkward, yeah. But it's just like it's for the art. It's not. Don't worry, it's not real. It's just like there's 90% you have to be truthful poems, but there's a 10% lie always in there.
She was very gracious. She's always very gracious. So with all of that assorted nonsense that was not necessary, I invite you to please read your poem and I will be quiet and not interrupt.
So the poem I'm reading today is from My Fears Out Loud by Maureen P. Medina, and the poem I selected is Blood is Thicker Than Water. Blood is thicker than water. You use it against me, grasping at straws, a last-ditch effort to bring me back into the fold. Blood of the covenant is thicker than water of the womb. You carried me and delivered me into this world. Though I know love, though I have been nurtured, though you know what makes me laugh, our familiarity ended when I lost my innocence. If only you knew what made me weep, what keeps me up at night, what makes it impossible for me to exist in this world. If only you knew what hurt me most, the very thing that keeps me going. As my eyes opened and I choose to see, it was then I found my chosen family. Raging against violence, begging for peace. We chose this life and in turn chose each other. My sisters, we shared a womb. We shared the same black hair, the same mannerisms, and even the same last name. But my covenant, my people, they don't know the stories of my youth, but they have plunged into the darkness with me as we searched for light together. Yes, Mom, you bore me, and as I fled your body and your feminine, I landed on uncharted territory, delivered right into the front lines with warriors. They bleed with me, they mourn me, they know me, they are me.
Wow. Really amazing. And you're reading. Okay. Okay.
It was
Okay.
your ASMR fantasy that you always hoped for?
Let me scratch at the microphone here. Yeah. Yes. 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 Um, it's so interesting you picked that poem because I have a whole um blood is thicker than water thing because I'm adopted. And what I always say is that my mother, my adopted mother, made the water between us into blood.
Oh,
So that is really amazing. It was so much in that poem. And for you guys listening, I'm gonna pull her reading of that poem out and post it separately so we can listen to it. I
on
can't
repeat.
wait. Falling asleep, dreaming of blood.
Oh, the best dreams.
Um, so there was talking about the covenant and lost innocence, the sister, um, and I especially resonated with the lines talking about, well, the poem is so serious and has a sophistication to it. But then suddenly the word mommy comes in, which creates a whole different type of feeling because it's not mom, my mother. That's something a child says. Or if you're an adult that you have that good relationship with your mother, so you say mommy still, you know? So it was like in that just that mommy was pulling in like the innocence, which she talked about before innocence lost in that situation. Um, and they're talking about fleeing the body and fleeing the feminine.
Yeah.
It
Yes, Mom, you bore me. And as I fled your body and your feminine. That's probably my favorite line of this poem because it's so impactful. There is a feminine inheritance and expectations upon mothers place upon daughters.
absolutely, and that so depthly deals with that and the relationship that women have with the feminine that's so policed, you know. If you're too feminine, then basically you're hanging out like a welcome in sign. You're so feminine, so that means you're available for sexual conquests all the time. But then if you're not feminine, you're you're not, but you're also not good. And then you're not a woman that society needs you to be. So it's all different kinds of things that are in there. And then talking about chosen family, which I think makes the artistic world go around.
Yes, and I love how it's also covenant. Very specifically, there is an element of sisterhood and also kind of like there's negative connotations to witchcraft, obviously, but there's also positive connotations to it, that it's a tight group, you together make magic.
Yes. Um, and I love playing with that concept because, people say witches and the stereotype is that it's black magic. Um, but I love that word, like witches, and a derivative of that word witchy. Sandra Cisneros is said a line that's credited in another book by her friend, and she said in Spanish, "We're very witchy." And I never got over that line. It was one of those things that, like, I hooked onto. We are very witchy. And I think the concept of witches like pulls in a lot, as my dog is furiously scratching now. That doesn't it pulls in ancestors because I think a certain witchiness brings in those that were there before and herbal medicine and community. So just that one word sort of pulls all of that in to the poem, so rich with meaning and layers, and talking about being on the front line and bleeding, you know, as a warrior. I think because of how the poem is weighted and the multiple meanings that are brought in. So when I'm hearing that, leading with, can you reread that line? That's
Absolutely. I'll start with the yes, Mom. Yes, Mom, you bore me, and as I fled your body and your feminine, I landed on uncharted territory, delivered right into the front lines with warriors.
yeah. And I have a different connotation of warrior. Like I think a lot of people are gonna start to say, oh, swords and war,
Absolutely.
whatever. But for me, like my mother, she was a warrior. And she was one of these weird, I don't know, weird. There's a lot of these women, I think, where she was not necessarily that in touch with her emotions and her feelings. But I knew if there was any kind of physical threat, anything, that she would not hesitate to put herself in front of her family and her children, especially her children. And that to me was a validation of her love. And I knew that about her. So I didn't really need the, oh, yeah, I love you. Oh, here's this, I love you. I did that because she's had such a physical presence to her, even though she was very dainty and very super feminine and all of that. I knew that she would always put herself between me and danger. So, like, when I heard that, it was very evocative of women who are in this position, but also talking about bleeding, in my mind, again, had like a double meaning of bleeding on the battlefield, but also bleeding as part of a body that's denoted female.
Yes, I think the double meaning is there. And I also really think it's interesting that you picked out weird, which, now I could be wrong, but this is what I remember, that Shakespeare had the Weird Sisters, right? And that's where the word weird comes from. And the Weird Sisters were witches.
Oh, that is brilliant. I love that. So, why did you end up picking this poem out of all the
This is a great question. So I actually do know this poet. This is a friend of mine as well. And the blood is thicker than water is becoming very true with me. Like I used to be like, I'm going to be a fiction writer. I'm going to be a New York Times bestseller. And if you're familiar with that pathway, you know how isolating it is. You know how competitive you have to be, cagey, and you're like, somebody's going to steal my work, but I also have to give it out for critique. And it's a loop of insanity. That's what it is. And I didn't have a community there. I could not have a community in that area. When I decided that it really was not the place for me, I switched to poetry. That's when I started actually finding a community of people who I relate to who want to live and build a similar world like me.
Yeah, I met you through Pink Zombie Rose
Yeah,
and her community. And yeah, I was actually looking through my posts for something else. And then I came across a post that you'd made, you know, I don't know, close to a year ago maybe. So we've been Insta circling for a while, then we became like Insta friends probably last 6 months or so.
think so.
And yeah, it like the community that she's built and that you've built, and now I've become part of, tapped into the community that you're built because you're on Zoom like every 5 minutes, either doing a workshop or hosting open mic or supporting somebody hosting. Like you had something earlier today.
I
Okay.
did, I
You
did, I
did.
did.
Um, and I really respect that. I respect just the amount of energy you have and that it's directed. So, and I feed off of that. And it it's interesting because Pink Zombie Rose and I became friends because she would write sentences and comments. And we were talking about that in a, you actually posted something that, to train the algorithm, you need to write words more than five characters,
Yes, yes,
not emojis.
preferably
And
like 10.
most people just default to emojis. That's it. So when she started writing words, I was a little bit freaked out. Like, why is she writing words? No, I'm serious. Like, why? What's going on here? And she would consistently write words. So I would, I was happy to write her back, and we became friends. And my my Instagram boyfriend was spectacular, like in every possible way. Oh my goodness. I'll share a picture. His birthday's coming up. And yeah, I was just fangirling on his Instagram because he's a super weight heavy bodybuilder. And everybody that comes across him is just like, whoa, whoa. So yeah, I'm like, whoa, whoa,
Mm.
But I would write him words. And he responded because people are like emojiing him, and he's an artist as well. He's a really good artist, and he's very intelligent. He's very sensitive, and he's so funny because he actually pretty much stopped posting pictures of himself, and he's turned the comments off when he posts pictures
Oh,
because he realizes that people are looking at the facade of him, and
yeah.
they're really interested in anything he's about. And he's just not, he just doesn't want to engage that way. He wants it to be about his art. Um, but I'm like, well, you can't do that because you're the upper echelon of appearances. He's like, I don't feel like being handsome anymore. Nobody comment on how beautiful.
Oh my
Nobody
God.
comment
I'm sure there's a Greek story that matches his journey.
he's Mr. Greek actually. So yeah. But it's really interesting. the sense of community, and I think it's so important, especially in the literary world where it's very turns into like an elitism contest.
Yeah.
We're a bit off track. We're gonna get back on track, I promise. So
This is how the messages are like too.
yeah, you are aware that I have they say one, I'll use one, a very big and sort of a rare honor. And I was telling a friend of mine who I've told very few people because I was blabberooing all over the place. And then the second email came and was like, please don't tell anybody. I'm literally
That's
writing
hilarious. They
my
should have
third
started out with that.
censor. I'm like, the email is composed. And I'm like, okay, I'll wait. Till they announce. So, but I told him because he um he's very involved. He works at a lit mag and he's very involved in the process, as you know, he understands it. He was incredulous because I know he does not respect myself as a poet, or so
You mean like work or just like work ethic?
all of it. Sometimes we're friends because he's got heavy Libra in his chart, but respect for me, no. Respect for me as a human being in the universe, yes. Respect for my work, no. And I didn't expect it because, like, personally, we're such good friends. His brain just couldn't conceive that I would achieve this honor. He just couldn't understand it, and it was coming out. And I mean, he wasn't being mean about it, but he was just like, sort of like, "Are you sure you read that email right?" Like, and I'm like, I sort of just let it play out because that's how he felt. And I knew he felt like that, but to have it come out like that, it was and love him. But to me, he's one of the gatekeepers in the literary world that people need to overcome because he has a very limited idea of what is good and should be published.
Yeah, that concept of what is good is a very loaded topic. If it's any consolation, I actually was familiar with your work before I was more familiar with you, and I'm like, this looks like a top tier poet to me.
Oh, but different strokes for different folks. And we were talking about it the other day, and
Yeah.
you articulated what I've been trying to articulate. I'm slipping back into ASMR now. I'm so sorry. Where there is that style of poetry that is very lovely, but it's sort of like juxtaposing words and images, but there's nothing. What does it even talk?
It
What?
is
Huh?
the MFA stereotypical style where you have these students with excellent techniques, but there's a nothingness to it. There's no meaning, there's no thesis, there's no takeaway, there's no call to action, nothing.
So, and that's what bothers me about a lot of work, that it's really pretty, but there's nothing there, really. It's not about anything in particular besides itself being beautiful and the technique. Um, so, and actually in my MFA program, they emphasize that the reader should know what the poem is
Yes, a lot of programs are doing that now, but I would also say that in addition to that, a lot of these poets who do like and who do enjoy writing these beautiful pieces of work are inspired by poets of the past who do write beautiful pieces of work, but it's often code, coded and layered with political meaning, and you have to dig through it because if they were too blunt, they would get their heads decapitated. This is like by the by the monarchs in power. So they hid it under such beauty, but there was politics to it.
Yes. And I think there's a similar thing with haiku, ancient haiku versus modern haiku. To me, when you read ancient haiku, you can feel the gravitas, you can feel the meaning in these few words. And when I say the gravitas, it's the gravity of life, the importance of life in all kinds of expressions. And now there's a school of modern haiku that is like cup, plate, fly, and we're done. And that's all love,
Oh, those experimental ones, yes.
right? But it doesn't have the substance of the spirituality and the reverence for life.
There's also very political ones. I forget the specifics, but it had to do with mosquitoes, affairs, and the smoke of an emperor. And it kind of was a little bit of a historical detail, but also a bit scandalous. You know, the ancient haiku poets knew how to write scandals and those brief little ditties.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with modern haiku. It's my preference because as a poet, I want to feel the guts on the floor. I want to feel the feeling behind that. I love vulnerable poetry and poetry that unsettles me, that I might not know the meaning, the full meaning, or it's bothering me and I think about it later. Um, that's the type I gravitate to. But you will never hear me not encourage people to write poetry, no matter what style they have. I think it's such an affirming um, way of expression, and that we all should. I wrote terrible poetry for.
Oh my God, yes. I still don't know how my first poem was published. That should have just been a rejection.
Um, so that I have to say that poem you read also reminds me of Game of Thrones, um, especially when it hit the warrior line. What was the dragon woman's name? I can't remember.
I don't know, but she was called Mother of All Dragons, right?
Yeah. Um, people are listening to this and
She's
screaming.
short, she's blonde. Look, I never watched Game of Thrones. I will say that. I never
I'm
watched
gonna
it.
look at it. You never watched it. Oh my God. Is that what you just
Look,
said?
technically, I was too young when it came out. So
Daenerys.
I missed the hype train entirely. And then by the time I was roughly old enough to watch it, I found out the end was terrible. And I feel a lot of sorrow for everybody who had to go through it.
You could just watch it to the middle of the last. Not, but there is the Three-Eyed Raven. Oh, you would love that. That story trajectory. And there is this insane foreshadowing, that is sort of going along. You're not really paying attention. Yeah, okay, that guy is like this, blah, blah. But when it comes out, what he was talking about, like your the top of your head just comes right off. Um, yeah, the Three-Eyed Raven storyline was the best one. And it was absolutely, absolutely incredible. It's worth watching. There are some incredible elements to it. Yeah,
I'll have
stop.
to watch up to like the plot line of that. And whenever the final book comes out, I'll be reading that. We don't know.
Yeah, you know, um, yeah, they got into trouble because they got ahead of him.
Yeah, look, it's people that I knew were into Game of Thrones, and I got a lot of the angry rants from that.
It was so funny. I think all of us that were fans, we
Mhm.
remember last episode, and we were all sitting there like, "What the hell is going on?" I have been betrayed, and I'm really mad now.
Yeah, I will say, of all the shows I've ever watched, possibly Farscape was
Mm,
the one that had like actually really good entire arc.
I think I watched some of them. I think I had a boyfriend that was watching.
It's good.
Listen, I'm strange. I watch one of the best things I've watched recently was a documentary about the Middle Ages as to a volcano that erupted in
Oh,
Asia and caused winter in Europe, and somebody solved that mystery. Like I was like, oh wow, this is so fascinating. You know,
that
one of
is
my friends
cool.
said, "Oh, you should watch, I forget, Lionesses or something on Paramount." I'm like, "You mean the one with like like the hooker assassin women? Like I've never seen that before." And he's like, "No, no, no, you should see it." I'm like, "This is why I shouldn't see it." And I just
Okay,
tried
we are the
to.
kind of same of the weirdos. We're roughly the same weirdos because I am still obsessed over this one 20-minute YouTube documentary. I think it's 20 minutes or 40 that covered Japanese street gutters and yeah, so they have like koi fish and stuff, and they're not actually connected with the rest of them. They actually put it for a tourist attraction, and there's a lot of them, and it's really cool. I will find it and I will send it to you when I
Yeah.
find it. Yeah, it's like these really cool, weird things.
Oh, oh, I love koi. We're not even gonna start with them. So I am going to read my poem, and
Yes.
I picked this with you in mind, and I thought, what am I gonna pick? First of all, I was so busy. I said, please let me remember. I have this podcast to do. Please. And then I'm like, what am I gonna pick? What am I gonna pick? And then I'm like, oh, yes, 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 yes. This poem. And I'm gonna murder the pronunciation of the word. And I'm gonna ask my mentor, Julie Marie Wade, how to
If
say
you
it.
do it with enough confidence, people will think you know how to do it.
And also I don't care. Um, so the book is Embouchure by Emilia Phillips. Oh, come on now.
You got to turn
You
off
look.
the blur because it doesn't. Oh, I see it. I see it finally. Is that a giant corn? It is a giant corn.
Oh my gosh. It is a giant phallic plant. I cannot with her, and I have to share
Is
how
she a
I
scientist or a historian? Like on the
look
cover alone.
weird poet. She is non-binary, but she uses the pronouns she, her. And I came across her poem, I think it was called Antediluvian in Blackbird. And it so shook me, that poem, which you should go look at. I'll find it and send it you the link. Because it's a biblical poem. And if you say to me, oh, read this biblical poem, I'm like, no, you know what? I'm good. Thank you. This. So good. Um, and I was thunderstruck. I said by that one poem, I said, okay, if she has a collection, it is being purchased. I bought the collection and then I messaged her and I was like, listen, that was a hell of a poem. I bought your collection and I will be buying subsequent collections. And of course, I said to Julie Marie Wade. I'm like, oh, you ever heard of this? And she's like, oh, like she's an encyclopedia. It's ridiculous.
Oh,
Like,
that's so cool.
how can you exist? So the poem is called Age of Beauty. Okay. Age of Beauty. This is not an age of beauty. I say to the right age as I pass a knee-high plastic witch whose speaker box laugh is tripped by my calf, breaking the invisible line cast by her motion sensor. My heart believes it is a miracle of love. So, how do I tell it? It is a muscle of blood. This morning, I found myself awake before my alarm and felt I'd been betrayed by someone. My sleep is as thin as a paper bill backed by black bars that iridesce indigo in the Federal Reserve of Dreams. Look, I said, to the horse's head I saw severed and then set on the ground, the soft tissue of the cheek, the crown cleaved with a necropsy knife until the skull was visible. You look more horse than other horses, with names and quilted coats in the pasture, grazing unbothered by your body in pieces, steaming against the drizzle. You once had a name that filled your ears like amphitheaters, that caused an electrical spark to beat to your brain. My grief was born in the wrong time. My grief of an old soul, grief reincarnate. My grief, once a black winged beetle, how I find every excuse to indulge in it like a child, giving quarters in the restaurant, eating alone. Instead of interrogating my own solitude, I'm nearly undone by the old woman on her own. The window so filthy, it won't even reflect her face, which must not be the same face she sees when she dreams of herself in the third person.
Oh, I absolutely vibe with that.
Witches and blood and Rite Aid.
I know, right? But also dad jokes there, yeah.
Honestly, that's her first poem in the book, and I've had a hard time getting past that.
Oh, I really love it, especially the setup at the first. With the examples given, it really set the mood of kind of having to break to a child that Santa Claus isn't real when they believe Santa Claus is real.
Right? Um, I love the scene in the first stanza where she's like, this is not an age of beauty, as she's going by the Rite Aid with the plastic witch out
I
front,
know.
making that terrible laugh, when everybody comes by.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a relatable experience. And then she switches it um, to my heart believes it is a muscle of love. So how do I tell it? It's a muscle of love. How do I tell it? It's a muscle of blood, you know? Um, yeah, her volt is in here. It's like, she doesn't care. She's like, okay, I am talking about a drugstore witch, and now I'm talking about art.
Absolutely, but still the same thing. You have the de-romanticization element to it, which is fantastic.
And then she switches to a cut up horse. The horse is just cut up.
I know. That's like the best part is that, you have some surrealism. It could be drugs. You don't know.
Well, all I think is of The Godfather, because in The Godfather, the movie, the horse's head's in the bed. Um,
I wonder if it's a reference.
well, this is a question you could ask, and maybe you could interview and ask
Ooh.
her. And then she switches again to comparing the dead cut up horse, which is just random surrealism, to the horses in the field with those really cute quilted um I don't what are they? They're not blankets because they're made for the horse. They probably have a specific name.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't remember what the specific name is, but yeah, they do have these little things in the back of them.
those are like expensive horses. They get like their little quilted jackets, because they must be taken care of and they must be cozy, because they are expensive. Comparing to the poor cut up horse.
Ah,
She's just going on. She's like,
it's
there's
hilarious.
and then there's these beauties in the field with their quilted coats. Um, and then she switches to grief, which completely ties into the dead cut up horse.
Yeah.
Um, and the grief could be about anything. But then she's got this.
You could also say the quilted horses and the makeup are related. If you go down the makeup aisle and then, you pin on makeup, you become a quilted horse.
Quilted horse. Oh my God, what an image that is. The quilted horse that loses its head. Blood.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Then she has this image. My grief wants a black winged beetle. And you should see she breaks the line. It's beautiful line break. So it's my grief wants a black winged. Okay. The line breaks, but it's also a page break.
Ooh.
So I'm here wants a black winged. I don't know what the black winged is. So in my mind, I'm thinking, of course, Raven, because it's my favorite black winged thing. And then it's a beetle. I love that surprise that she made me wait for it.
Absolutely. That is how to do an excellent line break. You always keep the suspense and surprise when you flip the page.
And the way she ends it, I'll say, is the way a really confident poet ends, where they don't do like a fancy tie back in image. They just boom, they just end it. Um, and she switches to the old woman in the restaurant alone. And I think when people look at older people like that, there's always like a fear that I'll become that person. I'll be alone in the restaurant. I won't have any friends. I don't know. I've got a bunch of cats at home,
Same
a
here.
dog, you know. I'm good. I'm fine. Um, and then the window so filthy, it won't even reflect her face, which must not be the same face she sees when she dreams. Now it could end there. She could end it there. But then she says, and then so she sees when she dreams, line break, stanza break of herself in the third person is its own stanza.
Fantastic.
Right,
That is
let's see.
storytelling right there.
And she's like, this is what it is, people, this book. This. So don't come in here looking for cute images that don't mean anything. We are drugstore witching, blood, horse cut up in pieces, the old woman dreaming of herself in the third person.
Yeah.
Right?
And that technically does relate back to the earlier point of the face and the makeup. We always have these sort of masks going on this poem. In this case, it's the window that's so filthy she can't even see her face.
All right, let me see. Okay, unblurred my background, so
Fantastic.
hold the book up. And this image is actually, she put a woman's head on, this is a man's body,
Yes.
observing the incredible phallic. I cannot, like everything about this book, I love it.
Embouchure.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, this is definitely a cool book. I'm going to add it to my list of ones to eventually get.
Oh yeah. I'll actually email you a hard copy of the poem so that because the
Yes.
library and the stanza breaks, spectacular. Like,
That's just story building right there. It's like with poems, you could story build with line breaks and stanzas.
and I love that she's using um plain language. Like plain language, when the poem is so powerful in plain language, I can't deal with it. Um, so that is my contribution. Um, and it's very rare that I will read a poem. I'm so snotty. I will start to read a poem. If I get to the third stanza, they've got me. Usually, even if the first stanza isn't vibing with me, in my head, I'm like, don't be a bitch. Read to the second stanza.
You're more
And
generous than I am.
but
Yeah.
because I'm a bitch. I'm very bitch.
I'm like, if you don't get me in the, well, I would say first line, if the first line is meh, second line is you're probably not going to get me. Also, if your title is it's going to be I like a hook. You got to hook me.
True. But also, which another friend of mine told me, like, watch your mood. Because if you're in a bad mood, like, if there's something about the poem or the piece that you feel be all right, and you're in a bad mood, just tag it and go back and look at it. I'm talking like as an editor.
Oh, yeah.
We had this poem come in, it was by a young poet. And I first read it, I'm like, yeah, no, bye. And then Madison came in. Madison is the senior editor at Purple Lake, and she's very generous. She's a really good reader. Um, she commented and she said, "Oh no, I like this. And this is why I like it, and this and that, this and that." So I went back and I looked at it because she is not easy though. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I can see what she's saying. And the poem, we ended up working with the poet on some edits, but I was not in the best mood either. So
Yeah.
I could see what Madison saw. Um, and she helped me to see the value in it. Um, so to the two people listening to this podcast, now I know you are going to promote it. So now there's going to be 12 people. There's going to be my two. Actually, we're going to bring like 20 because you know everybody everywhere. And
I do want to issue a disclaimer. I am not reading any of submissions to Purple Ink, uh, so you don't have to worry about me saying no to anything.
no, but she could. But you're doing too much already. We're too busy messaging each other nonsense. and ridiculous ideas
And
on
marketing and
WhatsApp.
marketing.
Yeah, like all my fantasy in terms of someone to handle marketing was to start to post regularly on the socials. That was it. And you're out here like with this long game thinking strategy. I'm like, wow.
I am here to sell copies and make some moolah. That is what I am here for.
It is my fantasy and my dream. And I have roped her into another ridiculous podcast uh, where we we I will be forcing them to listen to my summary of RuPaul's Drag Race. And I'm very excited about that. So yeah, I'm my main inspiration in my life is actually RuPaul. And the reason why is because RuPaul was an ordinary person and RuPaul decided this is what I am going to do. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do this. And that's what he did. And I love Rue. Rue can be very mean, but that's just a part of their personality because Scorpio.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
They
oh,
stain.
honey. But they must, okay, I'm digressing and I'm starting a little bit early. All those queens that when Rue gets personal and deep, to go with Rue because our culture is so avoidant.
Hmm.
Like anything that is touching on feelings or what is the underlying issue, people immediately click away from it and make a little funny joke. And I was talking to my friend in who who was very irritated I won this thing. And then to sort of smooth it over, he started joking about something. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to joke in this moment. I do not want to deflect and pretend like we were not having a discussion, but I will because you need it emotionally. So I will go ha ha hoo hoo. But Rue will just say something like, "Oh, I noticed how you treated your partner in that challenge. Do you have an issue with your mother?" And Rue will
Oh,
just be like
yeah.
scared. And then they go, "Oh my God, I do, Rue. Oh man, my mother, this and that." I'm like, that's not normal. They must tell them when Rue comes to talk about deep stuff, you go with Rue. Because the normal thing would be like, "Oh, Rue, mother, they're just from and then they'll laugh, they'll joke, and
Hmm.
then kind of roll away from it. Um, so yeah. But oh, there goes the dog. She wants to go out. But I want to talk about a couple purple inky things before we get off. And people are like, oh my gosh, really? So, first of all, this mug I have been drinking with, which is
It says
the
fuck genre.
yes, which I think we should all fuck genre because what is genre anyway? This is available in our beautiful shop. And I just got the proofs. Oh, I'm gonna turn off the blur because I cannot handle it. I just got the proofs for these notebooks that I'm doing. And
Ah.
yeah, I'm obsessed with this, like officially obsessed. So it's a complete wraparound. And in the notebook, it's got like the little wave in there.
Oh, that's so cute.
So also you can put your name in there, like right here. And then in the back, I put because I got these Japanese woodblock prints
Yes.
that are in the public domain because they are ancient at this point.
I
And
do
I
want to
thought,
offer a suggestion for those watching. If you happen to get a journal such as this, if you happen to buy this lovely, lovely journal, um, in the name section, you have the power, the option to not put in your name, but a name of your enemy, a name of a celebrity, a name of anyone you wish, and then proceed to lose it after filling it with interesting substances.
oh, my brain. Wow, that is amazing. You stopped me.
That was just so mind blowing. But yeah, you could add that as advertisement.
Oh, yeah. Woo. Oh my gosh. We should do a whole book like that. People would love that.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
And then they rip the pages out.
Mm-hmm.
They burn them. I was just thinking of a coloring book because of the way the pages are with these little
Mm-hmm.
doodaddy things. Meanwhile, you're thinking about casting people out of your life, like inviting them to leave by writing their name.
Well, there is an anime based upon that, but
Wow, I love that. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to get witchy with that.
hell yeah.
Yes. Ooh. Oh my gosh, we could do like a whole workshop with that where people write.
I know people who would want that.
Yeah. Okay, we just had a thought. Okay. That is amazing and fantastic, and I love it. Completely supersedes my coloring book idea, but I'm still gonna do it because yeah. Oh, sweet. See, it's a dyslexic brain in action.
Yes, it is.
And I love a dyslexic brain, I have to say, because it's like it kind of,
There's never a dull moment.
yeah, it's never dull with the typos. I mean, I think I'm gonna start sending out Kit Kats to people when they tell me I have like there was this massive typo, um, which it was my fault because I should have caught it, but I was really going quickly. And I think Apple auto-corrected because I put wow and it did something else weird.
Mm.
Did not look at it, I went, but anyway. So thank you so much. This was so fun. We went completely off the rails, which actually I love.
I
Um,
know. That should be the title of the podcast, Off the Rails.
yes. Okay, yeah. For our new, let me reblur my background for consistency. Yes. Our new podcast is gonna be off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That will be beautiful. And it will be unhinged because yeah. Um
That is how we live. That is
this
how
is
we meme.
this is oh yeah, don't even with the memes. You know what my favorite meme is? That cat that is like
Mhm.
you know that one? Like I could watch that and listen to it endlessly. One time I would just had it on repeat
Mhm.
and because it was so funny, whatever the meme was, my son came out and he's like, "Are you okay? What are you doing?" And I'm like, I showed him. I'm like, "What?" Like he just took the phone from me. He turned down.
Oh my God.
He couldn't stand hearing it. To me, that's just life, like we're just cat screaming into the void. This is life. But thank you so much for coming on. Um, I will add all of the groovy information about our poems
Yes,
in.
and we should also end it with a, reminding people what submissions are open for what.
Oh, yes. Oh. I just started to post submission files
Mhm.
because us writers are obsessed with submissions. and a lot of information that I've compiled over the last few years I put in there. Our submissions are open right now for our 50 Years of Hip Hop anthology and Florida Images. We have an anthology of Florida poets, and we're still looking for Florida Images. And I'll mention our next anthology because by the time we do our next podcast, it'll probably be the call will be open. It is called Femrising, and it is about female female identifying and non-binary experiences in the Americas. So Canada, the Caribbean, United States, Central America, South America. And I think we should do a global one, but that's just what we have planned right now. So that's what we're going to be doing. Please visit us on our socials, be social. And thank you so much, Nona Lee, for coming on, gracing us with your beautiful taste, your ASMR fantasy voice.
Absolutely.
I want to hear about what you guys think about the voice. It's better than the voice in Dune. Better, more better. Um, so thank you, and you will catch us on the Author Health podcast soon. Bye, guys.
Finger guns, pew pew. Bye.